10 times the Jewish people tested me in the desert and complained, and I nearly destroyed them for it each time. Because when a person complains, that means they're not being grateful. They don't have this pair of shoes that they want. They're complaining they don't have this bag that they want. They don't have this money that they want. They don't have this house that they want. They don't have this thing that they want. And while they're complaining, they're forgetting about all of the wonderful gifts that I gave them. I gave them 2 eyes and they can see. I gave them 2 ears and they can hear. I gave them a mouth and they can speak. I gave them hands and legs where they can function. But they forgot. They took it for granted. They're only looking at all the things they don't have. They simply canceled out all of the wonderful things I gave them. I gave them money, I gave them food, I gave them children, I gave them a spouse, I gave them life, but they put all of that into the garbage because of 1 pair of shoes they don't have, because of 1 car that they don't have. And that lack of gratitude literally nullifies my relationship with them. When people complain against God, it becomes detestable in the eyes of God because it literally takes everything that He has given us, puts it in the garbage. When we don't show gratitude to God, that means that we don't really have a real relationship with God. We have a relationship with our desires, like animals. And therefore, Rabotai Yekarim, in a situation of the world that we have today, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that there's a clear and apparent danger. Our spiritual status has deteriorated to such a point that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to use anti-Semitism and constant threats in order for us to do tshuva, to start being grateful for the Torah that He gave us, start being grateful for all the good He gave us. How can we show gratitude? Saying thank you to Hashem is nice, but if you say thank you to Hashem while you betray Him, that thank you is worthless. The way that we show God that we're grateful is by following His Torah. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I gave you the Shabbat to observe it in accordance to the Torah, and we violate the Shabbat, that means we're not grateful for the Torah. That means we're not grateful for anything. When people think that God is supposed to be grateful to them, that they did anything good, when people think that God needs them, then what ends up happening is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is an ungrateful people that is about to self-destruct. Therefore, in order to save those that still want to be saved, in order to keep and protect those that want my protection, I have to threaten them. The best among them will be threatened. The worst among them will be threatened. Everyone will get a chance to see those that are connected to God, those that want to be connected to God, will have to know that when God is showing us threats, that's because we are disconnected from Him. And therefore, we have to do tshuva before HaKadosh Baruch Hu picks up the ante and blood is spilled in the streets. Follow the Torah. More Jews connect to God, the real God, the only God, the God of the Torah, the God that says that we need Him. He doesn't need us. David HaMelech teaches us that Hashem uses every 1,000 years as symbolic for one of His days. 5,784, that means that we are on Friday, somewhere around 6 p.m. That means that we are exactly at that time of before Shabbat. We are at that time of before Shabbat, which means that the Mashiach can show up tomorrow, he can show up in a year from now, in 10 years from now, but needless to say, it's in our lifetime. War of Gog and Magog, as the prophet Zechariah in chapter 14 and also the prophet Ezekiel in chapter 38 both discuss in detail of this last war. And the last war is not a single war, but rather a series of wars. It's something that will take, according to the Gaon Vilna, less than 10 minutes. This war of Gog and Magog is going to be a war where 2/3 of the world will die instantly and the other third, only part of it will survive. The Mashiach will fight against all of the enemies of Am Yisrael, all of the enemies of the Torah. The air that comes out of his mouth, he'll destroy the wicked. Instead of focusing on when Mashiach comes, we have to be more focused on preparing for whenever the Mashiach comes. We're already prepared right there and then, because the opportunity we have right now is to do tshuva before Mashiach comes, because once Mashiach comes, it's not going to be the same opportunity as we have right now. And that's why it says, and we say it in our prayers throughout the week, Uba leTzion Goel leshaveh pesha beYaakov, that the Goel, the Mashiach, will come to bring salvation to those that used to be push'im, used to be spiritual criminals, used to waste seed, used to walk around not modest, used to be stingy, used to have, a lot of time wasted instead of learning Torah. So when people do tshuva, they become part of the people that will get the salvation that Mashiach will bring to the world. The question is, what are you willing to sacrifice for Hashem? And even more so, once you've decided to sacrifice something, are you sacrificing sufficiently where you know for sure that what you're sacrificing is enough to put you on the side of the giver, or you're still doing it just for the sake of taking, because your primary focus in life is to take. These things, Rabotai Karim, are real lessons that apply to every single person. Every one of us tends to judge ourselves too harshly or too loosely. Sometimes we think of ourselves as not good enough at all to do anything good, and sometimes we think of ourselves as much better than what we really are. But when we're judging here, it's much simpler. We don't need to look at so many different factors. Look at how you live your life. Are you generally a giver? Are you giving all you got to sanctify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, to publicize His name? Are you willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of Hashem? Not just in words, but actually, are you doing it in action? If you're doing it, Ashrecha, B'tov lach. If you're not, you should consider doing it. Why? Because no one ever loses when they sacrifice for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the book of Malachi, in chapter 3, behold, I send you Eliyahu the prophet before the coming of the great and awesome day of Hashem. And he will turn back to God the hearts of the fathers with their sons, and the hearts of the sons with their fathers, lest I come and strike the land with utter destruction. It's either going to be Eliyahu Navi, or it's going to be different speakers or rabbis that are going to convince anyone that wants to follow Hashem to come back and do tshuva. Before the big day of God, where there's no more chance for tshuva. But you must know that while that happens, time to do tshuva will come to an end. And whoever does not do tshuva, the verse continues by saying, lest I come and strike the land with utter destruction. All those that stay with Korach, with Manis Friedman, with the missionaries, with violating Shabbat, with all types of things that are against Hashem, everything else will be destroyed. They will all be destroyed, and not in a way of natural death. Everything is going to be the most awesome, extraordinary way in order to sanctify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name.